Chapter 6, the human body. In this chapter, we will see where fundamental knowledge of the emergency medical services system, safety and well-being of the emergency medical technician, and also the medical, legal, and ethical issues to the provision of emergency care. We'll see where it will be applied. Also, we'll see applied fundamental knowledge of the pathophysiology of respiration and perfusion to patient assessment and management. As we move into the introduction, we will see where it is very important for all healthcare providers, especially as it relates to the EMTs. You must have a working knowledge of anatomy, and as we say, it's a working knowledge, but at least you must have that basic working knowledge of anatomy, and it's very important in more ways than one. As an EMT, as a healthcare provider, you will be handing over your patient to other healthcare providers, and so you will need to have a knowledge of anatomy to communicate and relate to other healthcare providers. Knowledge of anatomy is also important when you are doing your documentation, doing your radar report, and also is very important when you are doing your assessment on the job. You will get a better understanding and appreciation of what you are doing. And so you have these terminologies that you must know. Anatomy is referring to the study of the structures that makes up the human body, as we are doing human body. And also physiology is the study of how these structures works or function. And the big word pathophysiology is referring to problems that can occur with these structures and systems, how they work normally, and that's where you have disease and injuries occurring. So it's very important that you have this knowledge, and this knowledge gonna be used for the rest of this course and also for the rest of your career as a healthcare provider. So it is very important that you grasp these concepts that you will be taught. If you didn't have a medical background or knowledge before, ensure that you get this fundamental knowledge going forward. When we talk about anatomy, first thing we're going to look at is the topographic anatomy. These are some landmarks that's on the surface or the superficial layer of the body, and these landmarks will give a guide as to what structures are beneath. So topographic anatomy is very important. It's a guide for the structures that are beneath. Once you're referring to topographic anatomy, the terms that you will use, it's gonna be referencing the body in the anatomic position. And this is a position where the patient is standing facing forward or facing you with their arms to their side and their palms forward. This is the position that we're going to be referencing when we're talking about all of the superficial or surface structures referencing the body. And also point to note, if we are referring to directional terms, it is referencing the patient. So when we say left or right, we are referring to the patient's left and or right. So as we look at the topographic anatomy, the body can be divided into planes, and these planes come about from imaginary straight lines that divide the body. And we have the three main areas. You will have the coronal or frontal plane, which is a straight line that cuts across the shoulder and divides the body, in essence, into a front and back. So that's the first plane you can note. The next plane you have is a sagittal or lateral plane, and this is a straight line that divides the body into left and right sections. Now you have a line that runs straight through the center of the body from the forehead all the way down through the umbilicus. That would be your mid-sagittal or midline plane, and this is the plane that will divide the body into its equal left and right halves. So note the difference between, you can have a sagittal plane, which is not a mid-sagittal. It's not going to be cutting the body in left and right halves equal. Once you are going to the midline, then you refer to it as a mid-sagittal or midline plane. So the next plane you can have is the transverse or axial plane that actually cuts the body, a horizontal line that would cut the body into top and bottom sections. So those are the three main areas you are looking at: the coronal or frontal plane, which divides the body into front and back. It's cut across the shoulder right through, and you have front and back. You have the sagittal plane, which divides the body into left and right. So that's another vertical straight line. And if it's going through the center, then it is the mid-sagittal midline plane. Please note that all protocols will be observed as was discussed yesterday. So all questions pertaining to the lecture, we will reserve them to when the chapter is finished. We'll ask them at the end. Thank you. Very important to recognize that the cells of the body is made up of cells. The cells are the smallest unit, are the foundation building block of the body. Therefore, you have cells come together carrying out a similar function. They form tissues, and tissues carry out similar functions. They form organs, and from organs coming together, they form organ system or body systems. And from the body systems, you will get the human body or the organism. So recognize that the cells are the smallest unit of the body. Those are the foundation of the body. And as you progress in your studies, we say that you must have a foundation, basic working knowledge, but as you go up to advanced level, you will have a deeper knowledge of anatomy, physiology, pathophysiology, And as you go up to paramedic level, you will have to have a comprehensive knowledge. So at that level, you will be seeing the body basically at its cellular level. Everything will be knowing it from that cellular level. But at the moment, recognize that these are the layers that the body is made up of. So we talk about cells forming tissue, tissue forming organs, and organs making up organ systems. Now we are looking at the first system, the skeletal system. Recognize that any system you are looking at, you must know the anatomy first, which we said is the structures that make up that system. Then you will go to physiology, which is how these structures work or function. And then you will go to the big area, which is the pathophysiology, which is dealing with the problems that can occur. So looking at the skeletal system, the anatomy, recognize that the skeleton will give us our recognizable form, upright posture. It goes on to help us with our movement. But looking at the structure that makes it up, it is comprised of 206 bones spread over two main areas. You have the axial skeleton and the appendicular skeleton. So the axial skeleton is the main chunk of the body, moving from your skull, spinal column, your thoracic cage, and your appendicular skeleton is your structures that connects to the main chunk, which would be your arms, your legs, and your pelvis. So we say that the axial skeleton is the framework that the arms and limbs attach to. So it's the main chunk of your body. And as I said, it's the skull, facial bones, thoracic cage, and the vertebral column. So these structures are the main structures of the axial skeleton, and we see where the attachment is done to them for the appendicular skeleton. Now joints, where two bones come in contact, it forms a joint, and it consists of the ends of the bones and the connecting and supporting tissues. We have two main types of joints, and that's your ball and socket joint. These joints allow for rotation and bending, while the second type of joint is a hinge joint, which allows for movement in only one plane. So you can only flex or extend at a joint. And that is because of how the joint is formed, the type of how the bone end come in contact, and also the type of ligaments that are attaching those points. So wherever two bones come into contact, it will form a joint. And recognize that you have some joints offers a lot of movement, while some limited movement, some no movement, and all because of the formation of the bones at that joint and the structures that hold them together. So you will see where ligaments will join bones to bone, connect bones to bone, and also you have tendons which connect the muscles to the bones. So there is restriction of the movement and also limitation where the joints are formed. So these are some examples of the joints. So on my left, to the left, you have the ball and socket, and that's the example of one at the shoulder. And for the hinge joint, you have that example at the elbow, and also it's a similar thing at your knee. So the elbow and the knee are example of hinge joints, while the shoulder and your hip joints are examples of ball and socket joints. So again, I said the ball and socket will offer movement in many different planes. So you'll have flexion, extension, and rotation. So you have a wide range total movements at that point. While at the hinge joint, you only have movement in one plane, and that's flexion and extension. And as I said, it's because of how the joint is formed, how the bones are positioned there, and the attachment that hold the joint in place will give rise to that movement at each types of joint. So as we continue looking at the axial skeleton, we said it's comprised of the skull, the spinal column, the thoracic cage, and looking at the skull out of the 206 bones that make up the skeleton, we are looking at the skull, which has 4 bones for the cranium, which the skull is divided into cranium and face. The cranium have 4 bones and the face have 14 bones. So the cranium is 4 main bones. 4 bones are, as you see on your diagram, is the frontal bone to the front. You have the temporal bones on either side, and in between the temporal bone and behind the frontal bone, you have the parietal bone, and at the back, you will have the occipital bone, as you see in the diagram on the right. So these are the 4 bones that makes up the cranium, and they are fused together. So at birth, infancy or newborn, you have joints that join in that are not fused, but as a person get older, then those joints are fused, and we have that one plate in sense, but you have those 4 bones making up that cranium. Recognize also that at the base of the skull, there is an opening, and that's your foramen magnum,